Punch-Out is one of the most famous NES games out there, right alongside The Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros. 3. It's very, very popular and talked about, most particularly for the guest appearance of Mike Tyson, who is generally considered to be one of the most difficult video game boss fights of all time. But despite that, the game still has a sort of aura and charm about it. It legitimately stands on its own merits. It is legitimately a classic, even without the celebrity endorsement. I myself most recently played the game on the Nintendo Switch Online service, which does not feature Mike Tyson, unfortunately. Even then, I still found myself really charmed and impressed by the game. Even today, it still holds up. I would argue even more so than games like Metroid, Yoshi, Dr. Mario, maybe Kirby's Adventure even. Like, the game is still a lot of fun to play, even as a more experienced player. That is like my main problem coming away with this, playing it again. After properly finishing it for the first time, actually beating Mr. Dream. It's way, way too easy. I breezed through the first two circuits in really a matter of minutes. It's really not even worth fighting them. There's a reason that most people just use the code to get straight to Mike Tyson, or Mr. Dream in this case. A lot of these guys, once you know the pattern, once you know how the game works, are rather easy to beat. And a part of me is kind of disappointed in that, but you have to understand that this was back in the day when games like this weren't exactly common or well known. And even today, I don't think there's a whole lot of games like Punch-Out. Like, there is a process to learning how to play this game, and Punch-Out does a great job of like setting everything up and building up to that final confrontation with Mike Tyson. It gets harder and harder, which with each fighter that all have their distinct abilities and characteristics that all utilize the game's mechanics in very, very interesting ways. And you'll learn more about the game by refighting them. I don't think it's obvious to first-time players that you can actually one-hit KO Glass Joe by hitting him as he's coming at you, or like how to get certain stars, or how to defeat King Hippo, or Don Flamenco is kind of a counterintuitive. There's a lot going on here, right? There's a lot going on in Punch-Out that isn't obvious the first time you beat these guys. And I think that's why the game still holds up today. Is the game is fairly easy, right? Well, at least to begin with. But even fighting these easier bosses that you can easily beat, right, by doing a few moves is entertaining. Like, you become interested in these people, what they have to say to you, how they behave, all the moves they can pull off, their unique personalities. Like, the game just does so much with its limited technology. It really is a marvel. It really is a game that I think was a bit beyond its time, because it's kind of interesting, because Punch-Out Wii, I almost think of that one as a remake because it's so similar to this. Like, it has a lot of the same fighters, it plays pretty much identically. I think it has a duck button, and like the Star Punch works a little bit differently, but the boxers fight similarly. Like, they have a lot of the same patterns. It's just mostly in 3D and has like better visuals and animations, and is a lot harder. It's interesting. It's interesting to think of it that way, I think. But that game came out, like, 25 years after this one? Like, 25 years later, and they did very, very little to change how the game is actually played. There are a couple of reasons for that. For one, the game aged so well. Like, right, it's still so much fun to play, but another thing, and I think this is more important, the game, the way it works, once you understand it, once you start to get really, really good at it, it's one of those things where you can sort of shred through it. You know what I mean? Like, I keep talking about this. I keep bringing this up. But when you shred through this game, you feel like once you start getting really good at it, it's really, really easy to sort of figure out what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And with Wii, it's very, very difficult to make a sequel like that innovates on this concept. Like Punch Out is one of those series that basically got it right the first time. Right? They hit the mark or hit a knockout right out of the gate, and they sort of had trouble making a great sequel. Super Punch Out tried to change things up a little bit. They had like the shifting camera angles and the different kind of Star Punch, but all in all, it was kind of a weaker sequel. I really do stand by this game as one of the all-time greats. In spite of coming out in '87, in spite of coming out this game is over 30 years old at this point. It's that old and is still that much fun to play. It's that old, and I still felt the need to go back and beat Mike Tyson.